Okay, so now show us by example the solution. What can happen in BI on refresh if we later change any header name in the Excel file? Well, this is also something which people do a lot and they don't understand. See, generally it is always advised that when you have a data here, basically these headers, you should not change the header names later on, right? Once they are imported in the Power Query. Like for example, we have here this particular field, revenue. This is all revenue, isn't it? This is all revenue, right? We have the revenue here. Now, the question is that, so what happens if I change this revenue in the main source? If I change the field name, then what will happen? For example, I'm just going to name this as revenue 2 and I see file, right? Now, if I go back here and I try to refresh, what will happen here? Let's say that it's because you did some changes in your data. The column revenue of the table wasn't found. It's very clear. I really want that all of you, when you see errors, you can't stop. The more you learn, the more errors you will see in your life. But the point is, how well you respond to those errors will decide how good you can be in Power BI or in any tool. We always need to understand if the error is coming, what it says. Because if you understand the error meaning, you can sort out the issues without any help. Now it's clearly says that revenue, I can't find it. I can't find it, right? So revenue is not there, right? On the refresh, this happens. Now here I've changed this to revenue 2, right? Now there are two things, guys. One is that if you can't find the revenue there, because obviously you will go and cross check that, you will go here, you will see that, okay, so let me see the data, and you see that the revenue is there. So why it is saying? Why it is saying so? Isn't it? Then you can go in the Power Query as well. Let's check the Power Query also, transform data, because that is where the data is, if you remember the source, right? This is where the data actually is coming from, that sheet, right? So what's happening here? If I go and see the change type here, the last step, do I see anything here? Well, it still says the revenue. It says the revenue, right? Now, the point is you have already imported the data by the name of revenue. And later on, if you change the name on the refresh, the problem will come. Why? Because you see, the thing is here on your data here, if you see the revenue, this part, it's revenue actually, it's not revenue 2, right? So that's why we should not change the names later on. Okay. But let's say now, since I have this data, in the previous step, if you go in the previous step, there is no mention of the headers, right? I'm telling you these very delicate points, right? So that you fundamentally you should be strong, because it can happen. People can change the name and then you find this problem. So either you just, so it's all about the revenue 2, right? So I'm just going to name this as revenue 2. I'll just go here and I say revenue 2 and yeah.
Can you please repeat this point? What have you done?
Okay. So
you coming here.
Okay. So what I'm saying, I'm giving you one classic example of that. You may learn the Power BI, but while importing the data, you can come across this type of problem where people go and change the header names. So how will you understand that? Then what is happening? So basically, this is our data, original data. See, this is all about the fundamentals. This is nothing to do with the Power BI dashboards, right? But dashboards you will make only when you have the ability to put the data in the BI, and not only just to put the data in the BI, making sure if you refresh the data and if anything happens here, and if on the refresh it is not able to connect with that same file, you should be able to sort out those things. This is our situation where we have imported the data, right? And here, if I just go and refresh, what is happening? It's saying, okay, I have uploaded all those 2000, 20,000, whatever rows, and the refresh is working perfect, isn't it? Right? Now, suppose if I go back here and let's say somebody reported on there is some changes which happens here. So you just, let's say I put the cost here 200. I'm just telling. Numbers are changed. Save the file, right? Now, what will happen if you refresh? Are you going to get some error? No. Why? Because the change happens in the value, not in the headers, right? These numbers will change automatically. Refresh happens, no error came. Now, let's say by mistake or somebody maybe, I don't know, for some reason they change this header, the name. Let's say they said, okay, so revenue is not the name, but it's sales. And they did the change here in the main file. This is what they say. Obviously, you have changed the data because this data maybe you're using somewhere else also, right? And now you want this revenue to be sales. You have done the change. Very nice. The next day you have done the changes and you have closed the file. Fine. Next day you come to the office, you open the BI, right? And you just, let's say you want to refresh it because you believe that if there is any change happened in the numbers or anything here in the field, that should reflect immediately. So you come here, you open the BI and you say, I want to refresh the data, right? So this refresh now will give you the error, and then you will need to understand what is happening. Because when you're working in a team, right, you can't expect everyone to be like you, who actually knows the fundamentals, that one should not change the reference of the tables, the table field names. This is all can toss up the entire report, isn't it? Data integrity. Data integrity also says that names should not be changed later on. But anyways, now here's the problem. It says I cannot find the revenue, but revenue was there, right? So if you go back to your data, you always find here the revenue. It's not sales, but Power BI say I cannot find this field because the problem is the data is still linked with the Excel. So when you go back to the Power Query, this is where you will find the real problem, that revenue of the table wasn't found. If you click here, you will not see the error. Are you getting the point? So every step has its story. Like for example, understand here what it is doing. It is simply bringing the data. So there is no question of error. It is bringing the data. Here, it's reading the data, right? It's reading the data. Navigation, it must be navigating through all this, right? And it still has revenue. But then here, it is trying to change the data types of each of the header. So while it is trying to change the data type, okay, this is a text, so let me give this text data type, date data type, and then, it got stuck here. Okay, let me give the revenue integer data type. But when it has made an attempt to change this data type to integer, the problem is that now that revenue field does not exist there, right? So this means that you now, obviously, when the data is not there, how can you make the reports? Correct or not? So now you know the reason that, okay, so the problem is with the revenue field, right? Obviously, you will go back to your data and you will see what is happening here. Now you have two options, either change this to revenue, things will be sorted out. You know that, right? Or other thing is, if people say, no, this sales has to be there. Previous name was by mistake. Okay. Then instead of re-importing this data, because you have already created a dashboard with all those fields, it is just that on the refresh, the problem came. So you're not going to create the new report again, right? So what you will do, since it's all about the revenue and the sales, the mismatch, we can go back here and we can open this. Okay. These are the things, which generally doesn't come, right? But if it comes, then I don't want you to start asking for help, that you're going to WhatsApp me or you're going to spend the time on the Google. You should know these very basic things. Every step has some action. Because of our action, step is generated in Power Query. But that action which we are doing it, sorting, filtering, removing something, Power Query uses a function for that. So it writes the complete step, the code, you can say, in other words, right? So when I see the revenue here, what I will do, I will very cautiously making sure double quote should not be removed, because we are not here to understand all this entire structure, all these curly brackets. No, that is not our job. Okay, this is a BI training. Okay, but at least name when I'm writing, I have to make sure nothing should be removed other than the name of the header, like these punctuations, curly brackets, everything. No. So I will just go and put here the sales. Power Query is a case sensitive language. Please write it down on your laptop. Power Query says case sensitive, especially when you come from the this VBA or Excel background, where it doesn't matter. But here, if I write sales in capital, it's going to create a problem. So I've written the sales here. I'll just go and click outside, or maybe I can click here. And the moment I click here, you see that it's actually the data has started showing. And this is the same step where I was getting the error. but now there's no error because you have the sales here. Are you getting the point? Let's go back to this sales here. If you go and let's say instead of the sales, let's go here. Yeah. If let's say, for example, I may be wrong, who knows? I don't know. I put here the sales. Okay. I click here on the tick mark or I click outside like this, you see that the same problem comes. Okay. Case sensitivity is a big time issue in the Power Query, not in the BI. Okay. Only in the Power Query. So such things you should be able to resolve, guys. That is basically the whole purpose of this small example. Okay. So when I go and do this, I'm fine with that. Okay. Generally, how I do the things, I tell my clients that make sure when you give me the data, you know your headers pretty well, right? And if you're changing the header, first consult with me, because otherwise you will refresh the data and the data will create the error, and those errors will create a chaos in the entire, the organization, because when we create the dashboards, obviously we charge, isn't it? So if you change anything, you should let me know, and then we should immediately go and actually do those changes in the before we hit on the refresh button, we should do the changes in the Power BI window also, but it is not recommended. You make sure the headers are already, well thought of, and once they are placed there, they should not be renamed. But if they are renamed, who cares? We can control the things if we know. Okay, so this is all about this. This is.
So Ajay, the Power BI visualization is also case sensitive. For example, you are showing in Power Query, if we are taking uppercase, so it is not recognizing, but in Power visualization also it is case sensitive?
No. First of all, in Power BI, you work with what? You work with the visuals. In the visuals, you already have the headers. So you're not going to, deal with something, you're not going to write anything there. It's a drag and drop visuals. So if your fields are here and there's no problem in the data, when you're refreshing or whatever, you don't see in any error, you see that the data has loaded here properly. Well, there's no actually the kind of the platform, this window is not meant for writing anything. This is all about drag and drop. So drag and drop, when you're doing that, this case sensitivity does not apply here. However, when I say that we don't write anything over here, of course we create the formulas in Power BI, which we call the measures. But in the measures, case sensitivity is not a problem. Okay, when you write the formula, you can write the formula in small letters also. Power BI takes care of it. But because in Excel and in VP and in Power Query, we do all these data cleanings, data structuring. We do write a lot of formulas. We do a lot of coding, all that. So that is where this is important to know that if it is a case sensitive thing or not. Okay, but in BI generally, it's actually not sensitivity. It is case insensitive. But you don't need to worry about these all, because most of the time you will be busy in creating the visuals, and visuals don't need any sort of those writing. Okay, they just are drag and drop things. So I hope up till this point we have got the idea how Power Query is going to play an important role in the BI and why it is embedded inside the BI, and we have also seen the visuals. Okay, now the next part, if you don't have any questions, so now we have seen that what basically we are supposed to do if this thing happens. You just need to make sure that the Excel headers and the Power Query headers are same. Okay, now one more thing I want to tell you here, because if you see, so what happens if we go and change the data? Now suppose, see this is your data, which is sales, right? And sales data, and we go here, and here also the sales data. Now, I'm just saying that what happens if you decided to rename the field here and not in the Excel data? Can you rename the field here? Yes, I can. Suppose I want to change this cost to CP, cost price. I double click here. You can even right click here and you can rename this. Like in Excel you do, isn't it? You go here, right click, rename. Okay, rename. I say, well, expense. From now onwards, you will be known as an expense. I click outside. You see expense is there. Now, because of this action, Power Query created a new step for you, rename column. Now, somebody who is going to see this step, he will know that, okay, something happened here, rename happened here, but where? Well, he can see the formula. There is a formula here, table rename column. Like in Excel, you have formula, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, all that, right? So there is a formula which I don't want to learn, but I know. So cost is changed to expense. Now the question is that, now understand, what will happen if I now go in the BI and refresh? What will happen? Well, there will be no problem. Why? Because finally, this is the data, as I told you, the last step is the final data. So finally, this is the data which Power BI will use. And when the Power BI will use this data, how can we have an error? There's no scope of an error, right? So if I go here, because see, Power Query is supplying the data, right? So Power Query, if any changes you are doing in the Power Query, it's finally going to the Power BI. But then if you do any changes in the Excel, which is actually going in the Power Query and then coming to the BI, there can be a problem. Now you see, it has put this in the expense column, right? Thus, now suppose if you have already created a visual here with the expense name, again, this is also very interesting to notice. If I have put this in the y-axis and I'm going to put this here, let's say age category, again, the same thing, right? I put here the expense. Now let's go back to the Power Query. Okay. Now what will happen if, let's say, expense which I have used here, this expense, this one. If this expense, I'm just going to change this to something else. Okay, so let's do this here. Again, let's say I change this to expense ratio. Okay, I again press enter, right? Expense, because it was a renaming of the same field. So you will not find the new step, but in the same step, it has done this. Expense ratio. Okay, now what will happen to my visuals? When you're refreshing this, see this. Apply changes, don't do anything here. See that. Expense ratio. The data is automatically changed. Do you think then Excel data, if that had been changed due to this? No. Excel has nothing to do with that, because that happens there in the form of steps. There is a step 1, there is a step 2, there is a step 3, there is a step 4. Excel is connected only with the first step. After that, whatever you do, that is the Power Query headache, not the Excel. Right? So the point is, now let's go back here. See this now. I'm giving you one very important point. See this now. If I say refresh, right?
Hello.
Let me cover this point. Then please come back. I'm refreshing. The things are happening. Okay. Now, pay attention. If I do any changes in your data here, right? If I refresh, will there be a now problem? Because on refresh, these numbers are changed, right? You have seen that value change is okay. It's going to change the numbers. But then, will there be any problem in the mismatch of the sales, of this cost with that expense? There should not be. Why? Save the file. Go back here. Refresh this. I'm going to refresh this. Okay. First of all, let's see that. Now you see that all the rows are uploaded. Why? Again, I'm repeating myself. I'm reiterating. You see, you have just changed the number, but overall, when you are using the source and when, you know, the things are going on here up till this level, your headers are same. Your headers are same. You have not changed the header in this process. You actually have changed the header later on this data, which has no connection with the Excel, the main source, because the main source is using these three steps. And in these three steps, we are not changing the, the name of the fields. It is only after that we decided to change the name, which is obviously happening with the previous data. So in Power Query, every step is linked with the previous step. It means if I'm renaming something, why do you see here hash change type? Because the previous step is change type. It always works on the previous step. Basically, previous step means a data. Every step holds a data, you can say, right? So if now I, let's say, go and say that, okay, I'm interested in the toys category only, or let's say these two, what will happen now? A new step will be inserted, right? Now this step will go and create the formula on which step? On the previous step, which is a data actually. So you will find here the previous step name, whatever the formula Power Query uses, and then here it says category should be accessory and category should be animal. both categories, right? But here, if you see, it's not using change type, it's using rename column. So as you keep writing the step, the next step always uses the previous step. Basically, all steps are mini databases, or just databases, isn't it? These all are holding up some information, and those informations are different informations from each other because on every step you are doing something. Okay, so if I am actually creating something, if I'm changing my data here, it has nothing to do with the Excel data, because Excel data, the main headers which Excel data has, they are available here when they are when the Power Query is trying to change the data type. Again, I repeat, these 3 steps we never created. These 3 steps created by Power Query. If you want to see one more data, for example, I bring any junk data. Let's say I go, let's say from Power Query also, you can, import the data in the new source, you can go. Otherwise, from the Power BI window, it's there, if you remember. Let's say I bring a new Excel file, and let's say which Excel file okay, this file, let's say for example, right? Now this file will come here. Let's say you can import as many files. Now this Asia file has these many sheets. For example, it's telling me, we can see this, all sheets, right? So for example, I just want this particular sheet X1, and I say, okay. Okay. So now if you see here, guys, there is another data which has the same name X1, and you see these all steps Power Query has done it. We don't do these steps. Basically, when you import the data, Power Query scans the data, right? So in the source, it simply try to create the link from where the data is coming. That's why they given this name as source. And then some navigation happens, which again, whatever it is doing, it's doing, right? It may be checking all the data. Then if you see here, what happened when the data get inserted, Power Query did not create the headers in this case, right? So then in the next step, it said, okay, I'm going to promote these names, promoted headers, which means here, these headers, it may have found that, okay, so serial number does not match with this data type because they are all numbers, So it created itself. I don't have to worry about that. Power Query will give you the right data. But again, here the data type are both text and number. So change type will always happen. Power Query will give you the data, after observing the data types and then taking the action on it. Finally, once this is done, now whenever you do any action, take a new action on this, whether you rename this or something, a new step will be created, which will be actually created on the previous step change type. Like here, you see it has taken an action on the previous table, which is promoted header. And if you go to the promoted header, you find that it's actually created, it has taken the action on the previous step. However, these steps are obviously, these steps are yet to, they are doing their own calculation. What they're doing, we don't have to worry about it. But the real steps basically are here where they're promoting the header and they are actually changing the data type. So this link, this chain, it keeps getting formed as and when we do any new thing in the Power Query. Okay, so this is how. So I'm just going to delete this. So point is very simple. If some change happens in the Power Query or in the real data, and on refresh you find something wrong, you should now be able to find it out that what has happened, because the prompt will come and the prompt will tell you what's happening. This field, I can't find it out, but this field is there. So go and check in the Excel. And when you go and check in the Excel, you will find, oh, the field is different. So either change the field there or here. Now this is something you need to decide. Okay. So it means here we will do n number of things. Let me close this file. I know there's no file. Yeah. So here I can do n number of things, and that is the final data which Power BI will consider. And that will also be shown up in the visuals here. Any questions? Now all clear? So I was just trying to tell you that on refresh, changes can happen either in the main source, which is in this case Excel, or in the BI, or in the Power Query also. Changes can happen anywhere. You have to be ready for that. Any questions we have, Aman?
No, sir, not clear.
Now let's come to the now, after learning the basic things, how the data, channels from one point to the other, and what problems you can have, because this can be very frustrating if you don't know it, right? So let's now come to the real part, which is actually how to, when you create the visual, how further we can go and enhance the features. Because Power BI is known for its the dashboards, which have superb, you can say, the colors, the pixels, and at the same time, the other options as well, which basically provides the more insight to your these charts or the visuals, whatever you want to call it. So first of all, now we're gonna quickly start with the column visual. This is the visual which is one of my favorites, and also it is used out in Excel. You must have seen this clustered column visual. So let's start with this. Now, let's start from the scratch. First of all, I'll choose my visual. Remember, we are choosing this visual clustered column because I want the vertical bars. I want to see each group and I want to see the sales. Okay. This is how it is. Very simple, right? Now, this particular segment is all about drag and drop. The fields you go and put here. Legends, small multiples, tooltips. We'll discuss this in a while. Okay. Right now, we're just okay with these two options. Now, what if I have to do the formatting? Then please go to the format your visual. This is a part, format your visual. Okay. Every graph which you use here, they will have these two parts. Analytical pane is also there. Sometimes you don't find this in few of the charts, but here it is there. If I click here, you see that. Okay. So I don't use this option than tell you what I know. It's very simple. First of all, I click on the format your visual. Okay. In the formatting part, you find here two tags. One is for the visual and one is for the general, right? So let's see. Now, one thing I want to tell you that, it may take some time for you to remember all these options. So don't worry. You just, spend some time on this 3, 10, 15 visuals regularly. And this will be in your tips that where you have all those fields. And one more thing I want to tell you that who knows after 4 months from now, these visuals, the features, they will have a different name or they will be put somewhere else. I don't know, because though now I think these changes are quite, they're not, have not happened, the major changes, but when I started learning the BI, I think maybe 6 years back, I don't know. So that time, every 2 months they used to do something different because it was the new phase for the BI, right? So every 2 months, 3 months, we had to just keep ourselves up to date that, okay, this option is there and this option is not there, right? Anyways, so let's first of all click on the visuals. In the visual, guys, we have the x-axis. You all know what is the x-axis. You can collapse them, you can expand them. If you want to work with these options, you have to expand them. You have to expand them, right? Please remember one thing. All these have these options which are not laid out. They all can be expanded, and they all, whatever you're going to do after you expand them, whatever you're going to do, they will impact only that particular thing, only that particular category, not the other one. Okay, because you may find one option, let's say border. You may find the border is available for x-axis also, y-axis also, for chart also. So how will you know when you're going to change the border color, it's going to be applied on which particular segment? Obviously, underneath which you actually are, that time you're working, right? So that is going to impact that particular the category. Right now, I'm on the x-axis, right? So in the x-axis, if I don't need the values, let me just off it. You see, the values are gone. Now we always need this. So that's why by default it is on. Okay. Font, you can change this from here if you are specific about any font, right? Like some people use this font, the COG UI board, or any font. It's up to you. Like for example, if I change this, the font is changed, right? From here I can change the colors as the size. You see, I'm going to keep this as, let's say, 40 or maybe 12. You can do that. Here from, you can change this to italic. You can have the underline. We don't do such things. We don't do, though they are there. Okay, we keep the chart simple, mature, right? So less information, less labels here, but more information. So we don't need all those formatting part. Okay, so I'll just go with the font, and based on my choice, I can increase or decrease the font. Okay, then you have the color here. Okay, so color means you want to change the color. So let's say I go and change the color from here. I can change. If you don't find the colors, you can click on the more color, and you can here just go and select the combination. Like for example, I will go for blue, maybe bluish type. So I can just go in here and I click anywhere here, and you see the color is changed. Here also it is changed, right? Now there are, so let me admit this. When I create the dashboards, I'm not actually so much particular about the colors. I mean, I'm not the somebody who is definitely have some specific color in my mind, but there are a lot of people who want their dashboards to have that specific color only. So you can't, I mean, if you don't find that, because creating that specific color which you have seen on the internet or somewhere, it may be difficult for you to create exactly that type of a color. So you can also go and find out these codes on the Google, which I will tell you later. It's not really important. So there they give you the code color, and you can type in the color code also here. Automatically the color will come. But it's really not important, because I mean, if you ask me, I'm more into the data, right? And the information. I really don't spend so much time on specifically looking for the colors. Okay. So let's say, for example, we go with this color. Okay. So we have this color, this maximum height concatenate, leave all this. This is not required right now. The title. So this title, you see this title. If you say, I don't need the title, you see title is gone, and we should never use this title, because it's the unnecessary, as I say, you already know that these are the, the age category. So why do we need to show this, right? But still they have given this option. So unnecessarily, let's make sure we shouldn't have too much of the labels, going on inside of the graph. Anyways, so it's on the title is on the auto mode. But if you want to, write something, let's say you say, no, it's very important for me. So let's say, and type in here team alpha, and now you can see that this is team alpha coming. Okay, so you can do that, I mean, in this way. Okay, so this style, this show title only, this is nothing. We don't have to just do anything here. Bold, italic, again you can do. Font size you can increase. So now you see, again you start seeing those bold, italic, underline. Please, as a beginner, you may get confused. Oh, I've just done that, why it is coming again? But remember, this is not actually for the values, this is for the title. If you see how they have designed, they said that, okay, this is x-axis. In x-axis, now what all we can cover? So they've given those main categories. And then under each category, they have put those different the features. Like, for example, they said in the X category, title is the option, and this is the another option. This is the another option, which is the x-axis values. So for that, they have given the separate section. Like for values, you also have this bold italic if you want to do this, but then in the another category under the same x-axis, title is also there. So now when you go and use bold italic, it will implement here, not here. Okay. So here also, if I have to change the color, I can go and change the color. It's all on me. Okay. This is how it is. And what is in the layout? Well, this layout is something which right now is not important. Now we can go to the y-axis. Same way you can do the changes in the y-axis also. In the y-axis, obviously we're talking about this, right? In this y-axis, it's always range auto. Auto means based on your data, we will decide from where to start and from where to stop. And this happens in Excel also, isn't it? Like 0 to 80,000, because the highest sale is 75,000. But let's say you say, no, sale can never be 0 for me. I want to start this with 500 or something like that, isn't it? So I just put here the 500. You see, the number starts with the 500, and then maximum, let's say I go and keep this as 80,000. You see, so I can change also this. I remember what happened. One student showed me something like this. So what he said, sir, I don't know what is happening. These numbers, if I hover 75,000 sale, this sale happened 63,000, right, sir? I said, yes, right. But then why it is coming like this? I mean, they are all equal. What's wrong, sir? Isn't it? So I said, okay, let's see that. I knew it, but then just to show him, I asked him to go to the visual and tell me what have you defined here in this range. And so he then understood, basically, if I go by the maximum of 50,000, everything will look like same, because you see, all these numbers are greater than 50,000. So, I mean, very rare, this rarest of rare scenario, but if it happens, it can trouble you. Okay. So I generally, don't put this, don't put any value there. I keep this on the auto mode, so that if changes happens in the data, your y-axis automatically shifts up and up. up or down. Okay. Now, how to get this back to the auto mode? This is also a story. Now, if you go and start writing it AUTO, because that is what I'm trying. See, it's not going to work. Okay. I delete all this. I'm writing AUTO. No, it's not working. I click outside and this is automatically going to come. I mean, don't try to type in. Okay. Just say that, delete, click outside. If you start typing here AAU, nothing will come. Okay. So we are making this as auto. Clear? All right. Now invert range. So invert range, it's going to again a very simple, the baby features. It's starting showing the data in the reverse order, in the other way actually. Okay, from the this side, right? So then the data starts from here, from the secondary x-axis. We don't need all that. Let's come to the value section. Now value is all about this. These are the values. So x-axis, y-axis done. Correct? So let me quickly go and collapse this. All the important things we have done. Why the legend and the small multiples are off? I'll tell you why. They are here obviously for us so that we can use, but why they are not there? Because so far this visual does not support these. Okay. Why? Because if you go back here, we are not using the legend here. We are not using the small multiples here. So that's why they are grayed out. Okay. Anyways, so leave this grid line, horizontal grid line. If you want to keep these grid lines, you can. You can change the color. You can change the line style. Suppose solid. You see solid. Let me show you. Let me increase the width actually and the color. This is a very light color. So let's say I use this. Now you can see, right? Make sense? So you can, have these different line styles, right? So you can change the width as well. It's up to you. Horizontal is something I don't keep on my graphs. So I just going to off it. Okay. Zoom slider. Well, zoom slider right now we will not do it. Because on this visual, it's not going to really, hold any meaning. So let's not confuse ourselves. Let's go to the columns one. Column is all these tabs, the numbers. Columns. If I want to change the color of this graph, let's say I can change it. Okay. Now, maybe if you want to change each of these, if you want to set this to a different color, you can select each one of these from here also. Like suppose you say 2 to 3, I don't want this in the blue, maybe I want this color, for example, right? So you can one by one go and select these and you can change the color. But I don't think so you will ever have to do this because you see, this we do generally when we have a different categories. Like right now, this is all about the sales. There's no other category which is cost or profit, right? If everybody is showing the sale, let's have the same color. Unless there is some specific category, let's say 3 to 5 years, and you want to show that on a different color because of any XYZ reason, then you can do that. Okay. Otherwise, we will always have the on the same color, right? So let's say I use the same color on. Okay. Now, when you select the all after changing these, pay attention. Let's say I try to give a color parlay. Let's say maybe some gray color. Now, you will be surprised to notice that these are not changing, though you are using the category on. So what happens here? Categories which you have changed before deciding that, they should be back on their original color, you have to go and change them again manually. Okay. So I will go in the 2 to 3 because their color is already decided. So you have to do this manually like this. And then you have to go to the 0 to 6 months like this. See that here. Okay. Now, once every color is done, now you come back here on, and now I can go and pick the color. Again, see, are you getting the point? So my point is that this is something we have to do manually because we have changed the color. So 0 to 6 months, please remember this point. Okay. So once this is done, this is done. Now I say all. Okay. I don't think so now this will be a column. If I now, okay, so we still have a column. All right. That's very surprising. But we'll go with this. Okay. And then at the same time, so one can use this reset to default also. If you just, let's say, want to go back to the very first step, right? Reset to default. And now let me use this. Now it's working. So just click on the reset to default. And now we can have all these colors. Make sense, right? But if you let's change the colors of few categories and then later on you decide, no, I want to put them back into the same color. So please remember this can be a problem for you. I mean, then you have to change the colors for those particular fields manually, or just say reset to default and then again start with the all option. Transparency is nothing. It's just if you want to dim this color, you can do that. See that sometimes we try to use this transparency. I'll not do that. Okay. Then once this is done, guys, you can put the borders also. Border is off. It means most of the people, they don't use this option. That's why they put this on the off mode. But borders are these borders. So you have to go inside this and now you have to see that what do you want to do. Okay. So you see that match column color is off. So I will, let's say, use some this white one, not the white one actually. Or maybe let me increase the width, then you will be able to see. You see that? Nice. I mean, too much coloring is not preferable, but this is how you can do it. So if I change the border color, I mean, it's this one. You can see clearly this actually is, this is how it is, right? So maybe I can put the width here if I have to show the borders. I can keep this here as 2 pixels. If you say that, no, I want to match the color, let's say on, you know, what it is going to do, it is going to give the border of the same color. That's it. Simple, right? And if I try to see that, I don't see that. It's just, it's of the same color, I guess. That's why. So, I mean, border can be of the same, the matching color, or if you prefer the different color, you can do that as well. And you can change the width of the border as well. Very simple point. Okay. So what's in the layout? Let's check the layout. So this is the difference between the categories. Since we are talking about these, right? These numbers, I can create the difference. I mean, between create space also, or I can reduce the space also. This is how it's going. Sometimes people, you know what they prefer these wide apart, right? So that's how you can do that. But if you just join this is again, if you have seen this in Excel charts, we create this type of a graph as well. I mean, on the column, we reduce the width between the categories to 0, and same thing happens here, right? If I simply remove the width from here, this is how you will see. Let's say, now see, if I say that I don't want the border, for example, look at this now. Yeah, right? So this, sometimes people use this. So anyways, right now, I just keep this as it is. Let's say. Okay. So this all is done. Anytime you want to reset, you can. Now, data label. Data label is all about the data labels. These labels which you show here. If you show these data labels here, I don't think so you will use this y-axis. You can go back to the y-axis and you can say, I don't need this y-axis. So I'm just going, you know, I just want this to off like this. You see? Because, you know, too much of information then you are providing. This is okay. Okay, just for information. But let's add this. And by the way, this title, I don't need it. I'll remove the title. And now I'm using this X title also off. Both X title and Y title is I have removed. Okay, so this is our data label. Data label is these numbers which you see, right? Data label. So right now there's nothing here. I mean, we have just a one category called sales. So you don't see anything here. Orientation, you can change this. Vertical, you can move this in the vertical way. Like right now, this is horizontal. You can have this in the vertical if you want. I'll prefer this horizontal. Position, again, inside the base, inside the center, all these options. Please try yourself. You don't need a teacher for this. Like this. Okay. So then you have the title. If you want to use the title, see the title will also come. Sales. Again, now this title is not x-axis title or y-axis title. What's the point? Because this title right now is under data label. Fine. So these titles, again, when you go inside this title, then you can bold it, you can italic it. I mean, there are a lot of things, right? Like, for example, this sales is now italic and you wanted to change the font. You can, it's only for the title. I don't need all this. I'm happy with this, the data value, which I really appreciate. And then again, these are the values which we have already here. So we don't want to do anything here. These are the few of the new options which they have entered here. So let's see what happens here if I put here bold. Yeah, these are the values. So these values also, if you want to underline or want to change the color, you can. I'll remove all this. Fine. And finally, there is a display unit. Display unit means if your number is bigger and you want to put that in 1,000, million or billions, like 76K is in the 1,000 format. It's auto decided by the system. If I say none, then the number comes here as a whole number. If you go and change that to million or the billions, automatically, the calculation will happen accordingly. Then you have the background of this also. If you want to change the color of this background, so these are all things, I will not go into that. So I don't think so you need that. It's just a self practice. Okay, do that. Plot area background is all about the chart area, where you can go and put some image. This basically is called the plot area, right? Here you don't find the color, but surprisingly, image you can add. Like for example, I'll try to, I don't know, let me use this image for example, company logo, maybe something like that. You see that? So in every graph, if you want to use this, you can. Then this image can be normal, fit or fill. If you say fit, see, it's going to look like this. If you're going to say fill, it's going to fill it. And then transparency, because you don't want to distract your user from between this real numbers and the image. So you can bring the transparency as well. Anytime you want to delete this, remove this, you just want to remove this. Okay. So this is how this particular section is all about. And the good part is that in most of the visuals, you find these options a lot. Of course, there will be plus and minus because every visual is not same. But when you practice on one visual, you find that next time you creating the second visual, it's helping you a lot. Then you have the general tab also here. So we see the general. General is all about the general things, not these components. For example, in the general, we have property. Property is all about height and width. That you can do from here out as well. You see height is now reduced to C22, right? Now, why they are there then? If everything, we can do this easily with the mouse. Sometimes what happens, which we will learn, that just behind this visual, you want to put another visual. And then with some button, you want to just go and, on and off the things. With one click, this comes. Then with second click, this goes off. And the picture which is behind this, it comes, right? So for that, sometimes, with using this, the mouse, the manual efforts, we just note down the height and the width, and then we simply go and when we create another visual, we just note down these numbers and we can put those numbers here. Like I prefer 300 and I prefer 500. It's easy for me. So that way. Position is all about, guys, x-axis, y-axis. Okay, horizontal, x-axis, vertical. Like this is horizontal, the distance. This is vertical. If I move this here, you see the vertical 111 number will change. You see that? So it's all about the position. Okay. Padding. Let's see the padding. Now padding is what? Padding is a word which is used from the HTML. If you see the websites, you have noticed one thing, that on the websites, there is always a specific, from the top, from the bottom, left, right, there's some space. Sometimes they do that, right? This is all about that. Padding is all about that. Like for example, let me create this. Let me just put this here. From the top, if let's say I want to increase the padding, see what will happen. See the numbers. It's moving down, right? So distance, actually, basically the distance from the top, it starts increasing. Same you can do from the bottom. Again, very simple things. See that? 0 pixel. Let me see the distance. See that? This distance is, right? So there's some distance. See now from the other side. It's moving, right? So again, very small things. Next option is the title. This is all about the title. If you want to off it, you can off, but title is required, right? It tells the story. In the title, I can change this, sales by age group. Well, I prefer sales and just maybe age-wise. Okay. Then the size of this, maybe you want to change 16. Bold, italic, again, let's say bold. Background color, if you want to put See the background color alignment. I keep this in the generally in the center, right? So the center it's there. Text wrap, it's always on. Again, a word from, on website also we use. It's all that the wrap text which you use in Excel. Sometimes if your heading is too long, so what happens generally? Let's say there is a heading. Let's say very long heading, sales. I'm just going to show you something. Okay. Now, because of the wrap, because it is activated, it will never cut you off this title. It will send the title to the next line if it is long, right? But if, let's say, okay, so what I do, I keep the heading like this, and I say, I don't want the text wrap. Okay, can you see that now? Half of the word is cutting. So obviously then you have to go and increase the width of this, but you don't want that because you can keep the chart only this much, but you want the title, and the title is not. So wrap is always on by default, and I advise you not to touch that part. So it's one of the cases. Otherwise, I know titles are not that long, but you should know if this option is there. It's a good option. Subtitle, under the title, you have a subtitle. I like this option. This option is a new option. So you can stay sales by age group. So sales, let's say I say, write whatever you want. I'm just going to make it bold, and I'm going to make this visible. So I give this a white font, and I keep this in the center again. Okay, like this. You see that? Okay, this text wrap off on, it's up to you. So I'll keep again the same, the black. Okay, there's a divider in this option. If you want to create a division between this, the title and the other part of the graph, you can divider on. Again, a new option. Initially it was not there. If I increase the width, now you will see that color. Let me change this to that. This is the divider. Okay, so width you can, it's up to you. How do you want it? Okay, this is how it is. So spacing again, spacing is all about again the distance between, let's now read this, spacing between label and value, this space. Don't do any changes, but just for information. You can increase this. It's all up to 10 pixel it can take up. See that? So this particular and this particular area, this is all the space between it. The next is effects. In the effect, we have a background color, which I like. Now this all will change the background of the chart. So I can use any background. Let's say I'm going to use this. You see that? This is how it is. Or maybe I'll use the same background. Obviously, you can make this transparent like this. You see that? Right? So you need to decide this. You can have the visual borders, these borders of the chart. And then you can increase the width. You can make them round corner. It's all up to you. See the corners of the chart. You see that? Yep. See these corners. Well, again, the width. See that? Okay, this is the border. Then this one, the shadow. Sometimes we like to use the shadow just for have that special effect. Last one we will do now. Then we'll cover the rest of the things tomorrow. Tooltip. Tooltip is always on. It is actually the information which you hover here and it tells you the information. If I off this, I don't think so you will like to off this. You don't see the information on hovering, right? In fact, instead of talking about this off option, we should talk about that what else we can do if they are on. Like by default, these are the color. Age group sets, you can see there's no background color. So I can change the age group color also, the sales, the headers, and the values like 5, 3, 9, and 6. And then the background color also we can change, right? I'll show you. Suppose we go in the background and I say that now, let's say I want to show this. You can see age group, the background color is changed. So at the same time, I like to keep my text color white because of this background. You see that? Wonderful. You can increase the font also. You can, make them bold also. It's all up to you. So this is all about this. Then the value color also. So value color, let's say I go and use this one. This is how it is. Okay. So this looks nice. So this particular option we will talk about tomorrow. That will complete this section, which is basically the formatting part, right? And once we have done this, for the other visuals, we will not discuss all these things again and again, because these are the same for, wherever they are for that visual. Bordering, coloring these legends, and then X title, Y axis title, all these things we will not cover again and again. What you can do now, you take this file from me, this data from me, and then when you're trying to, obviously, if you refresh it, what will happen? Pay attention, because this file will then be asking for the link, and you don't have this link because you will save your file in your particular location. So when you save that Excel data, before you refresh, just come here in this change source, open the BI, in the transform data, go to the data source setting, and then say change the source, and then go and select manually that Excel file from here and click OK. Then the same file, toy shop, will be linked with your Power BI from the source, which is coming from your system. And then you can go and start doing all these things which we have covered today. Change the titles over there, come back to the Power Query, see if you can do that or not. Tomorrow we can discuss if there will be any that.